Okay, I just saw a video from a YouTube user, and basically he asks 4 questions for creationists. So I decided to make this a quick video and answer to these questions.
Comments. So, first one. If Adam and Eve were the start of mankind, and Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve's kid, or kids, was Cain and Abel, and they're both men, right? You know, men can do stuff to each other, you know, they can, but they can't have kids. How did our population reproduce if motherly incestual actions didn't take place? Please provide me evidence on how we got here without incest. Please.
Okay, no, in fact, according to the Bible, Adam and Eve had sons and daughters. So that's a strawman argument, and I understand. After all, according to common knowledge, Adam and Eve only had 2 kids. But I mean, according to the Bible, there were also females. So, and that's in the Bible. I mean, that's explicitly and clearly in the Bible. I mean, it's not like I am inventing a fancy interpretation, or I am not inventing words in the Bible. I mean, it's there. It's in the Bible, so that's a strawman argument.
Please. Second, um, carbon 14 dating. You don't like carbon 14 dating because it goes against your 6 to 10,000 year old Bible timeline thing. Um, so, if carbon 14 dating is completely and utterly false, um, are these forms or are these forms of dating false as well? And if so, can you provide proof that carbon-14 dating, argon dating, neon dating, all the other dating that, is listed right there? Um, can you provide proof or evidence that they are wrong? Can you give us a model on how they provide inaccurate dates? That's it. Just can
Okay,
you do that?
the problem with radiometric dating is that before dating the sample, either a rock or a fossil or whatever, you have to make assumptions. For example, in potassium argon, you have to assume an initial amount of argon before dating the rock. But it's impossible to know the initial amount of argon. It's impossible to know how much argon was there when the rock was formed. So this is why radiometric dating doesn't work. Besides, radiometric dating has been tested in samples of known age. For example, in Mount St. Helens, this volcano erupted recently, and we know this because we were there. I mean, we saw it. But according to the method, according to potassium argon, the rocks were dated to be millions of years old. So, I mean, if this doesn't convince you that radiometric dating doesn't work, then let me know what will convince you that radiometric dating doesn't work. What evidence would you accept as evidence against radiometric dating? Uh,
False. Um, Next, seeing how we know that or the rest of the population, or a good portion of the population, knows we came from apes, and if another portion of the population don't believe it, well, then like, well, there's a proof. All right, there's the human chromosome and there's the ape chromosome. You can actually see they're exactly identical, and where it branches together, you can actually see where they merge together. It's chromosome 2 in humans and chromosome 2q and 2p in apes. You see where that happens there? Alright. Well, that's the evidence. That's like, that's overwhelming evidence. Like, people, like, as soon as we found this, we're like, shit, we proved we came from apes. So, if you don't believe we came from apes, can you provide any type of evidence that that's not true, other than saying God said it's not true? Like, you have to provide evidence.
Okay, no, this is not evidence that we became apes. This is not evidence for evolution. This is evidence for a fusion. So I agree, there is nearly irrefutable evidence that there was a fusion in human chromosome number 2. But this proves that there was a fusion. This doesn't prove evolution. You ask, how can I explain this? Well, very easily. Once upon a time, humans, and with humans I mean humans, have humans. Once upon a time, humans had 24 pairs of chromosomes, but one of them got fused, and now we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. I mean, this is not hard to explain. We don't need evolution to explain this. This can be explained with known and observable mechanisms. So this is not evidence for evolution. And the only reason you believe that this is evidence for evolution is because you are looking at the evidence with a preconceived idea that evolution is true. So you are biased. You are indoctrinated. So that's why you believe that this is evidence for evolution. But for someone that is not looking at the evidence with a preconceived idea that evolution is true, then it makes sense. I mean, we don't need evolution to explain this. We only need common sense. Besides, chromosome fusion happen today in humans, and they are still humans. They are not becoming anything else. So, this is evidence for evolution. There was a time when humans and chimps had the same number of chromosomes, but so what? This is not evidence for evolution. Even evolutionists don't believe that there is a correlation between the number of chromosomes and the answer. So, I'm sorry. This is not evidence for evolution.
Please try to do so. Um, Second, this is one that I really, really, really need to know for a lot of people, anybody. Now, do you believe Genesis to be the absolute truth? Um, you know, talking snakes, man living in fish, parting seas, staff turning into snakes. Um, Obviously, if you believe in Adam and Eve, you believe how they're created. So, put away good, reasonable logic, observable and provable scientific evidence, stuff you can see, and you can run formulas forward and backward and still come to the same conclusion.
Okay, you are talking about miracles. You have to understand that miracles, by definition, cannot be explained scientifically. That's the whole point of a miracle. That's why we call them miracles, because you cannot explain them with scientific laws. So, my answer is no. I cannot provide scientific evidence for these miracles, because by definition, it is impossible to prove a miracle scientifically. The problem is that you also believe in miracles and you don't even admit it. For example, you believe that life came from non-life, but this is against the scientific law of biogenesis. According to the law of biogenesis, life cannot come from non-life. You cannot have life without pre-existing life. This is the law of biogenesis. This is a scientific law. This law has been tested and proven over and over again, but for some reason you don't accept it. So my question to you is, for example, you don't believe that Jesus walked on water because it's impossible according to scientific laws. According to gravity, it's impossible to walk on water. So that's why you don't believe that Jesus walked on water. But you do believe that life came from non-life, even though this idea also contradicts scientific laws. So, my question is, based on what do you decide which laws to accept and which laws to reject? I mean, are you just cherry picking the laws that you like and accept them and reject the laws that you don't like or the laws that are not consistent with your belief system? I am really expecting an answer. How do you decide which laws to accept and which laws to reject? Why did you decide to reject the idea that Jesus walked on water and accept the idea that life came from non-life? I mean, both ideas contradict scientific laws, so why did you reject one and accept the other? Simple question. So, I asked two questions in total. The first question is, what would you accept as evidence that radiometric dating doesn't work? And the second question is, based on what you decide which scientific laws to accept and which scientific laws to reject. Have a nice day.